In this video, I'm going to show you how to use columns in Microsoft Word. Now, the first thing to recognize is that there already is a column in our document. There's one column. All our text happily fits into one column on our page. If we want more than one column, we need to change our layout. So we're going to click on the Layout tab and take us to our Layout ribbon. And in the Page Setup section, you can see there is a button for columns. And if we click on that, you can see we've already selected one column. Now, if we want more than one column, then we can switch to, say, 2 or 3. So let's switch to 2. So now we've got 2 columns, except the problem is I've only got enough text at the moment to fill one column. So let's carry on writing. And what you will notice is that as I fill one of the columns with text, it will then automatically flow into the second column as the first is filled, like that. So as more text was added, it completed the column and moved to the top of the next one and carried on typing. So I'm just going to input some more text into there. There we are. And you can see I've now got 2 columns worth of text. Now you'll see there's a gap between the 2 columns, and we can change the gap up here. We just go up to the ruler, watch the cursor change, and then I can just drag, and you can see I can change the width of that column. If I want 3 columns, just as easy, go to columns, choose 3 columns, and boom, I've got 3 columns, and it's kept the gap that I set there. Now just watch when I change the gap this time. Okay, you can see that the gap changes the same here as it is here, so it maintains that consistency, making my document look nice and neat and tidy. So that's multiple columns and changing the gap between our columns. Now we can do this more precisely by going to columns and more columns, and here we can set exactly how big we want our gap, and you can see it's how many columns we've got. If we wanted to add more than 3, we could do that there. Probably need a much smaller gap, let's say 0.5 centimeters, and let's click OK. Let's see what that looks like. So there's our 4 columns, neatly done. And let's switch back. And I've got the option here to put a line between them to make it clearer, to make the separation clearer. So we've got something like that going on. And you can imagine this being a newspaper or a magazine or a newsletter or something like that. So we've got a nice little layout there. Now, another thing that we can do is, say we don't want any more text in this column after our title and our subtitle. Well, that's easy to do. I just click at the start of my next paragraph, and under Layout, I go to where it says Breaks, and I'm going to insert a column break. And it's showing you, it's telling you, and it's showing you what it's going to do. Anything after the break is going to appear in the next column. So let's click and see what happens. There we go, exactly as we predicted. We've got our title, our subtitle. The rest of that column is empty, and then the text moves into the next column, which is pretty neat and gives us a nice layout to our document. We can also get a little bit more fancy in our design. So perhaps we just want 2 columns, but we want one narrow column like this, and then one big column for the rest of the text. Well, we can do that as well in our columns. In fact, there's a default setting here under left and right. So I'm just going to click left and you'll see what happens. So here's our narrow column and here's our big column. And if we're not happy with where this is, we can go to our columns and more columns, and we can set the gap. Let's make that smaller. Let's make that 0.75. And I can choose the width of my column. And I think around about 4 centimeters we'll do here. And you'll see that the second column automatically changed to fit it in. And I'm going to get rid of the line and I'm going to click OK. And there's my new design. So I've got my title, my subtitle, and then I've got the rest of the article appearing neatly down the side of the page. Now you can see the next page has the text appearing in that narrow column. And again, if we don't want that there, I'm just going to click in there and I'm going to do a break. And let's do that column break. Let's try that again. Column break. And it fits onto the bigger column on the next page. So we're maintaining some consistency in our design. Now sometimes, I'm going to select all of this and let's just put it back to one column, and let's delete the column breaks. So I'm just going to click and delete that. That's gone. And there was one on the others, but I think it was there, but we'll see that in a moment. Now what we can do, say we want our document to have one column, but then 3 columns, and then 1 column, but all on the same page. Well, we can do that. So what we do is, say we want this, this, and this in 1 column, but then the next bit in 3. I'm going to insert a section break, and that's here, and I want it continuous on the same page. Now it doesn't look like anything's happened, but if I now go and choose 3 columns, my 3 columns now appear underneath this section of the page. And maybe here where we've got this page break, let's get rid of that column break. Perhaps we want another section break there. So let's do continuous. And let's put that back to 1 column. So now we've got a 1 column section, a 3 column section, and then it returns to a 1 column section there. And I might just put a little line just to give it a bit of space. And let's zoom out so we can see what that looks like. And again, that might be the sort of thing that you might include in a newsletter if you were laying out different sections and wanted to show a clear distinction between this part. Perhaps that's one news story, and then that's a separate news story, and that's like your little introduction. So we can use our columns to help communicate what are separate parts to our document.